long time ago, my grandmama used to tell me when I was just sitting around or outdoors or sitting on the porch, she used to say, boy, said, just don't stand there, do something. And I didn't fully appreciate what she meant until I got older and began to observe people who were always busy, always involved in the community, economically, educationally, academically, and every other kind of way you can think of. So when I thought about interviewing this young man, I thought, I said, well, maybe this rascal has been listening to my grandmama, because ever since he's been here, he's not just standing here, he's doing something. So with a lot of pleasure that we're interviewing today, Mr. Tony Lowden. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, my brother. So good seeing you.
Yeah, good to see you, man. So we're just gonna do like what they used to do long time ago. We're gonna have a fireside chat. But this chat is significant because we want to talk about a lot of the initiatives in which Brother Lowden is involved, all of which are meaningful, measurably meaningful. So I just want to express publicly to him, you know, that I appreciate him, you know, and I've known him since, for a while now,
yes,
you know, since Campus Club and maybe even before.
yes.
And he's just involved so much, and I'll tell you right now, his first love is young people. His first love is young people. So he's doing some things, now along with some other things, politically and educationally and economically in our community to try to uplift the community and to bring it up. So at this time, you know, I'm going to present Mr. Lowden. But in doing so, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, you know, this month I celebrated 12 years being here in Macon, and I'm really excited about being here. You know, this is my home now. But I came here to do government affairs for Baxter Pharmaceutical Company, after leaving Eli Lilly, coming from California. And when I got here, I ended up the youth pastor at Beautiful Land Bible Church. I saw kids in Macon that was growing up the way I grew up in North Philadelphia. Single parent home. You know, my mom was on drugs. She ran this speakeasy house. I believe they call them bootlegger houses here in the South. I was her kid that stood around the house and cleaned up after everybody. The drugs, the smoke and the drink and the beers, the VO, the tunk games, all that stuff. My uncles them ran all the gangs in North Philadelphia. And I grew up hating that environment with a passion. When I got to Macon, I saw kids growing up in the same way. And someone asked me to go down and take a look at campus clubs. And I went down to campus club. They had 30 kids in their program. Their mission statement was loving kids into the kingdom and equipping them to live for Christ. Well, when I did an investment over what they were doing, I said, hey, you guys are not really fulfilling your mission statement. You're doing a good job of loving on kids because all you're doing is feeding them, taking them into the church, rolling out a basketball, and then sending them back to their communities. But you're not equipping them. They can't read, they can't write, they're fighting. You're sending them right back to the same neighborhood without any hope.
Right.
And so they asked me to take over the program. Well, God told me to utterly destroy everything. And I started throwing out the old van that they were picking our kids up in. I threw out all the old tables, the old computers, everything from the ground up I threw out. But there was one thing I kept, Alex. It was called one of them big old Xerox copying machines. And the only reason I kept that because God told me, he said, keep that. I said, well, I'm pushing this thing out the door and I'm hearing from God. God said, keep this. But the Xerox machine didn't work. He said, that's the way the church is too. Called to make duplicates and it don't work. And so I kept that copying machine as a way to show the people that work for me, we have to duplicate ourselves. We have to cross-pollinate ourselves if we're going to help the children in Macon. And so there, and that's why I got my traction in Macon and started working with kids, and it's a passion for me. Every now and then you realize that as a child, God pushed you into your purpose. I mean, my mom beat me almost every day with a braided extension cord. When I came home every day, she was always drunk because of her drugs. I would have to clean up her vomit because she drank and partied all day. I'd be embarrassed for her to come to my basketball or baseball or football games because she was on drugs. But I can sit here today to say that 3 years ago when my uncle died and I preached his funeral, she accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as her Savior. And every day now we have a conversation. She's saying, I love you, baby boy. And I say, I love you, Mom. But see, that's the first time I heard my mom say I love you when I became 39.
Right.
I didn't hear that as a child.
Right.
So I've been dedicating myself to saving kids because I realized what I went through then was good for me, so that when I got to Macon, I can recognize my purpose. See, a lot of people don't understand that when the Bible says everything works out for your good. I was beaten because God knew that when I come to Macon, I was going to meet kids that were beaten. And I had to be able to feel that, understand what they were going through. And so I've been here. We grew Campus Club from 30 kids to 800 kids. We built a $1.3 million learning center up at Strong Tower, similar to what Tiger Woods built out in California. I ran that program for 8 years, and then the Presbyterian board decided that they no longer wanted me as their leader. And they let me go as the pastor of Strong Tower. They let me go as a director of Campus Club. And everyone thought that I was going to leave the town. A lot of people couldn't say, well, why did they let him go? You know, Charles Richardson, Kenny B, Macon.com, everyone said, well, why did they let him go? This program is #1 in the country, rated by World Magazine. It's because they want to do something different. They want to do something smaller. I don't believe that. I believe in our community, we got to do something big.
Right.
If we serve a big God, we should be doing something big for our kids. And they want to go to just helping a small group of kids. Well, if you just got a small group of kids, and Crips, Blood, and Mafia and folks is bigger than your small group going to become Crips, folks, Mafia, and Bloods.
Right.
You know, and so I'm just trying to save our kids, man. And so I've been here. We took over the Booker T. Washington facility. It had been closed for a year. We started a nonprofit called Stone Academy. Reason why we did that's based after Psalms 118. The stone that the builders rejected had become the chief cornerstone.
Right.
And so now we're averaging anywhere between 300 kids a day in our after school and our summer program. We have 2 locations now that we do during the summer down at Hartley Bridge. The church down there, Lawrence Drive Baptist Church, give us all their classrooms, all their gyms, everything, the kitchen, everything for free during the summer. So we have our kids going back and forth having fun down there, and we keep them out of trouble. We're doing reading, writing, science, technology, engineering, robotic program. They speak in Chinese, Japanese, French, and Spanish. They're learning karate and dance. You know, all that Booker T. I hear people all over the city now say Booker T's back alive.
Right.
Again. Right. And then our kids are looking at college. We're making them choose to go to college. Right. This summer, for the first time, all our older kids had to write books. They wrote a book saying, You Think You Know Me is the title. The first chapter is about tell me about your life and make it. The second chapter is tell me about your community. The third chapter is tell me what you want to do in life. The fourth chapter is tell me how you're going to get there. And the fifth chapter is tell me what you're going to do after you get there. Wow. And man,
every individual
have to write their own book.
Wrote those topics, those chapters.
And it can't be 1 or 2 pages. You got to really peel back the onion and tell me about you so that I can know you. And I read them every day. They can't put the names on them because I don't want to know the names. But some of the stories I read, man, where, you know, I watched my father beat my mom. They got a divorce. We're no longer together. My father's in jail. You know, I saw my mother's boyfriend put a gun to my mother's head. You know, our kids are dealing with some adult situations. And the only way we can change that, Alex, is that we have to create a new paradigm. We can't allow our community, and I want to say this, I learned this from Howard Fuller, who was an activist for school choice. He said, we have to be unapologetically black. Can't apologize for being black, want to help black kids.
Right.
Because our kids need to see the picture on the box.
Right.
When you put together toys during Christmas time, and the directions, your eyes, you can't read the directions anymore, the most important thing you have in the room is the picture on the box. In our kids' lives, the most important thing they can have is the picture in the box. They need to see black men participating in politics and education and economics and entrepreneurship. They need to see black men speaking to each other, shaking hands, and not wanting to draw down on each other. They need to see our young ladies being ladies in our community. Right. Macon is so rich, so important for Middle State. If we can just come together, and I'm not talking about this symbolic code word of come together. I'm talking about really peeling back the onion and come together? How about Black Dollar Days, where we allow those to understand that the reason why we have a splosh is because blacks are spending more in sales taxes than anybody else in the community.
Right, right.
No, those are different things. They do that down in certain places of Florida. So let the business owner that they go out and get $2 bills, and let the business owner that know that there was some black business came in by that day. That's economic power.
Yes, it is.
You know, getting blacks to understand that we can have our own charter schools.
And I guarantee you, next year we're gonna have it.
Absolutely.
I'll put it together.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And also, you know, the governor has appointed me as one of the commissioners on the charter schools for the whole state. There's 7 of us. I'm also in charge of the reentry program for the state, looking at our returning citizens that are coming out of jail.
Right.
We got a lot of folks that's coming back to our communities. How do we stop that revolving door? And I'm also involved in the Interfaith Council, which is a group of pastors, all different denominations across the state, that sit down with the governor once a month and advise the governor on what's going on in our communities. Because the preacher, the pastor who's working outside his walls, is really the governor of his community.
Right.
Not the, I mean, we have a governor of the state that's elected, but true governors are those who are working in the communities.
Absolutely.
And when they realize the power that they have, their communities will change.
Wow. Well, tell me a little bit about, let's get into some specificities. Let's talk about the program. Let's talk about Stone Academy first. I mean, how are you coming with the camp?
Well, the camp is going great this year.
Okay.
We have 2 locations this year.
Okay.
We're still doing science and technology, engineering, and math. We have a new group of kids coming in because we got a lot of kids that have graduated and moved on. We're constantly raising money. When I was with campus clubs, Alex, this is honest God true. November and January and February, checks will come in from all around the community. I mean, big people, little people, everybody. But when Campus Club let me go, checks stopped coming in. We've never received 1 donation from a private individual in dollars in this community since we've been at Booker T. Washington for 5 years.
Why?
I don't know.
You got to know.
I mean, in sports they call that blackballed.
Well, no, but programmatically, it seems that you can support and document that Booker D is actually making a difference in our community, which means that everybody benefits. You know, people shout about crime and education and unemployment, but you know, you got to have some kind of program. It's got to be some kind of activity.
Right.
It's not just going to happen. And you know, and I happen to know about your program, and I'm going to look in this camera now and tell the community that we need to support what Pastor Lowden is doing. I mean, he needs the support. I mean, I'm sure that if they want to come and visit the facility, you know, and see what you're doing, if they want to come and talk to some of the kids, that you'll be able to do that. Now, let me tell you why. You know, we complain about the crime. We talk about the effect of a low graduation rate in our community. We talk about the gangs. We talk about the decadence in our community. And I mean, it's not, I don't care, let me tell you something, bricks and mortar are not going to solve our problem. I don't care how many jails you build, and I know that, you know, oftentimes it seems that our community is prone to build jails, but that's not going to solve our problem. What's going to solve our problem would be programs and activities such as this. And there are others. You know, Stone Academy is not the only one. I'm not suggesting that. But I mean, if in fact the mission and the purposes of Stone Academy mirror the mission and the purposes of a campus club, then just like it took dollars and community support, you know, to maintain that other facility, it takes the same kind of thing for Stone Academy. So I'm going to make the appeal, you know, and we'll get your information before you leave. But just think if 1,000 people sent $10 a quarter, you know, but we got to contribute. We got to play a role in the improvement and the betterment of our community. I mean, ourselves. You know, now whether the corporations want to donate to you, I think they should. But the truth of the matter is that African American consumers in Central Georgia spend $3.5 billion a year.
That's right.
You know, and we can afford, you know, to make an investment of time and capital and other resources in our community to the extent that we can make a difference. So
I want to that point, I want to address this. That Booker T. Washington facility was a land grant facility.
I used to I used to dance at Booker T. Washington, boy. When I really did. You know,
I'm gonna tell you,
I could only slow drag once a month. You know? They pay one slow drag, right?
I have not met too many people in this city. You know, I'm all over the city. They have not been a part of Booker T. Washington Center. If you go in there now, you won't recognize it. There's banners from colleges all across the country that are hanging from the ceiling because we want our kids to see college. It's clean. We take care of the building. We go out and raise money. We partner with churches to come in and fix things when things go wrong. But Booker T. Washington is one of 12 facilities that are named after Booker T. Washington that's still open in the country. There was 150 that was land granted by Congress. This facility, named after a prominent African American male in an African American community,
yes, sir,
in Pleasant Hill,
yes, sir,
where the hood is now gold because everyone's trying to move back into the hood, right, and take over the hood.
Right.
This place is ideally located to change our community.
Yes, sir.
So why would we allow, one, for it to go under and be taken by somebody else, two, not support it? We allow Ballard Hudson, all the other old school alumni that coming in and meet there during the day. We feed the community, kids that's not in our program. We allow marriages and weddings and churches that don't have a facility to hold a place in there. This is truly a community center. And I believe that, Alex, because there was a community center that saved my life. Elaine Lucas and I, sometimes we don't agree on everything, but one thing we do agree on is that you cannot balance the budget on our city by taking away from our kids. Our community centers that we have in this community was built to service kids, which is our future, with programs, reading, writing, math, games to keep them off the streets, to keep them away from gangs. Some of them are centrally located so that people that don't have transportation can get to. Basketball parks, baseball parks, all those things our kids need. When you neglect them and let them go, that's why you get gangs, drugs.
Pay for it later.
Right.
You pay for it later.
$90,000 a year costs for one child at YDC.
Wow.
$90,000 for one child at YDC. So we shift $20,000 away from our pool budget. Cut our pools, let our pools die. Then we have kids that are drowning in our lakes and apartment pools because they can't swim. Booker T. Washington pool is undermanaged. Bloomfield pool is greened. We can't put our kids in there because it's algae and all kinds of stuff there. And then we say that we got a problem with gangs and drugs. I say to you, just like people try to tell other people, you got to come see it. And ask yourself, will you allow your kids to be in it?
Right.
We drive by Pleasant Hill all the time. We don't do much about it. You know that old lady, I don't call her old lady, but I call her grandma every time I see her. She's right across from the old progressive school, right there, Walnut, where all the politicians put their campaign signs on her fence.
Yeah.
Every year, they put their campaign signs on her fence. They do it midterm and general elections. White and black politicians, Republicans and Democrats and liberals, Congress, Senate, presidential race, all of them put their signs on her fence. She's been there for decades. But you got to ask yourself, out of all the support, how many of them go back and say thank you by making her community better, making it safer, giving her grandchildren a place to play? See, that's what I mean by taxation without representation. You come get my vote, but the only time you come back is when it's an election time, but you want to use my fence again.
Right.
They're using that lady. Why? Because she sits on a gold mine. It's high traffic area.
Right.
And I just want to put my name on your fence, but I'm not going to fix your fence. Her children, her grandchildren play on a basketball court that has plywood on it. $25 worth of plywood. Well, the excuse is that, well, you know, kids and some members in the community shot out the fiberglass. So do that means we cut tail and run? Even the military said we don't leave no soldier behind.
That's it.
Right? So you cut tail and run, put up fiberglass or no court. You're turning all our parks into what they call passive parks, where you put in a walking area, a trail, no management of it, no basketball courts, no nothing. That's wrong, Alex.
Well, let me ask you this now. It was my understanding, since we're talking about recreation, that a certain portion of that money was for recreation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my understanding too. See, I came here when Jack Ellis had a splash that he was trying to pass, where there was going to be almost $60 to $90 million that was going to go to Parks and Recs.
Right.
And then it was killed. It didn't make it. And now we have another splash that we've actually come through where, you know, the Tubman, Parks and Recs, other different entities in the city are supposed to be getting certain dollars to help repair those. But I asked you the question, we've been a year or two into the splash, right? But go to Bloomfield today and see that the pool is green. Go to Booker T. Washington and see that they took down a slide and put up a piece of plywood. Well, the slide only cost $150 to repair. So you mean to tell me that all these people that go to Kroger, go to the convenience stores, the gas stations, and pay into the splash, right? You mean to tell me that in that splash is not $150 to fix the slide? That there's not $250 to put up a backboard so that those kids in those communities can play basketball?
Well, let me ask you this, and then I'm a bit really reluctant to, I'm a bit embarrassed because I feel like it's part of my responsibility too.
But not just you, Alex, it's all of us.
Well, no, but that ain't no excuse, man.
Right.
That's no excuse because it's our responsibility to monitor this thing, to see to it that our community is supported, to see to it that our children are taken care of, and there has to be some kind of, and I mean, you know, I tell people all the time, you don't have to be rowdy or violent to approach issues.
Right.
You know, you don't have to curse, you don't have to do anything, but as long as we just let it happen, you know, and I think that the community deserves information.
Yes.
You know, so what I'm wondering is what is the process wherein, you know, the individuals, the churches, the leaders, and the elected officials, and all concerned people can kind of, you know, monitor this. And I mean, because I'll put it, you know, I'll blast it out on my website or what have you, but what is the process for monitoring?
I'm not sure what are the process that they have citywide that they, I know there was a big debate who's going to monitor whether or not the dollars
where's the money going? That's what I want to know.
Where the money going? And so, but I would say this, that the pastors in this community, the leaders of this community, both black and white, should be holding discussions in their churches, in their communities, on how we can allow this to go on without any accountability. Alex, if one of the reasons when people are not donating to me, I didn't really want to say this because I didn't want to bring up old skeletons, but you know, I'm a transparent type guy. One of the reasons why they didn't, people are not giving us any money because they left this cloud hanging over my head when I left Campus Club saying, well, the only reason they could have fired him if he did something wrong. Did he steal some money? What did he do? Well, none of that took place. But they wanted accountability. When Howard Scott ran the Booker T. Washington building, they wanted accountability. They wanted an audit. I say to you that even when the city is putting money into a fund that is supposed to go to our kids and our communities, we should have an audit.
Yes, sir.
We should have an update where that money is going, how much is spent.
Right.
There should be council members, commissioners that go to communities and say, this is what we've done. This is what we've done for your community. Pastors should be asking the questions.
Yes, sir.
And the reason why they should be asking the questions is because come November, come midterm elections, they're going to be knocking on their doors, coming and want to stand next to the pastor, want to stand up and wave and do the model wave to get the vote.
Right.
Well, we should do the same thing. We should knock on their doors,
right,
do the wave outside their offices, and say, hey, show me the money.
Right.
Because if you can't show me the money, don't come back to my church.
Right.
Don't come back to my church.
Right. Well, let's make sure that we provide the listening and viewing audiences the opportunity to get in touch with you, to donate to your program, to come and view your program, etc. So talk to us about how one can get in touch with you.
Yes, well, our website is stoneacademy.org, www.stoneacademy.org. Our phone number is 478-742-4546. If you want to email me, my email is tlowden@stoneacademy.org. I would encourage our people to get involved, especially parents. Don't just allow your babies to sit at home and play games and sit in a room and lock themselves in and be on the internet when you have resources in your community that you pay into that they don't get a chance to use. So get involved. I would also say don't let your children be a latchkey kid where you work and they go home on the school bus by themselves and be at home by themselves. Gangs and drugs, teenage pregnancy can happen during that time. I would also say, you know, if you want to be involved, get your child in a better education. You know, I'm not saying that we all have all bad schools in our city, but we got programs like Roger Jackson, Motivating Youth, Stone Academy. Roger Jackson just opened up another Motivating Youth at Macedonia. Those programs are good to come alongside of you and fill in the gaps.
Right.
Don't complain about the system, do something about it. And we're willing to help all parents. We go from kindergarten to 18. And I don't turn no kids away. You know, the reason why I'm this passionate is because I'm fighting for kids.
Right.
You know, and a lot of people get on me because they said that, Tony, you work with both sides. You work with Republicans and Democrats. Well, let me tell you something. The white community work with Republicans and Democrats.
You got to do that.
The Latinos work with Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
The Asians work with Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
Why put all blacks in one line?
You can't do that.
Can't do that.
Right. Well, I told you all that when my grandmama said, don't just stand there, do something, he must have been close by, because he certainly has been doing something and is involved in the community. I appreciate you, my brother. I thank you for everything that you do. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham. Having interviewed my friend and compatriot, Minister Tony Lowden.
Thank you, my
brother. Thanks for all you do.
Love you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
www.makingblackpages.com. Come on and go with me. There's something new for you to see. Come on and go.